Hello guys, GLM-5 model has just been released and I decided to test it right away against Claude Code models. I thought to test it against Sonnet because that, in my opinion, would be more fair than testing against Opus, but actually Z.ai themselves compare the benchmark against Opus, not Sonnet. Of course, it's previous generations of the model, so Opus 4.5 and GPT 5.2, because probably at the time they didn't have the access to those newer models, but still, GLM-5 claims to be on the same level as Opus. Let's try it out. So here's a project we've been working on with teammate Laravel and Filament project, and he used Sonnet to implement phase 1 of that project, which is basically generating the database models and migrations for Laravel for database tables. So the task for the LLM was just work on phase 1, which is detailized enough with columns and their logic here. So part of the job is already done in the specification, but in addition to creating migrations with fields, the LLM should also create models, factories, and seeders. And this is quite a big task because you can see subphases 1.4, 1.5, so in total 6 subphases, and this is exactly what I wanted to test. Can GLM work on a longer task without supervision, so I could test the result afterwards? And then I compared the code quality of Sonnet versus GLM versus I also launched Opus. So the same prompt, work on phase 1, and let's see how all 3 delivered. So with GLM-5, the easiest way for me to test without any subscriptions was VS Code. Then I installed client extension, and then through OpenRouter, I've just chosen GLM as a model. So I have OpenRouter API key here, and then I just choose the model from the list. It can be GLM, it can be Quen, it can be whatever. And the price for that particular prompt was $2.53, which sounds like a lot. But again, it's not a subscription of Z.ai. With subscription, you would get different pricing and limitations. And actually, this price is higher in VS Code and client for whatever reason than I actually paid through OpenRouter. So if I look at my activity of OpenRouter, this was the prompt with GLM-5, which cost $1.27 in reality instead of $2.53. So I'm not sure why it is such a big difference, almost 2x. In terms of time and speed, Sonnet did the job in 10 minutes, Opus in 7 minutes, and GLM in 23 minutes. But I'm not actually sure what is the reason behind this slowness. Maybe GLM-5 is tested currently so heavily that it has some speed issues. Also, remember, I'm using in VS Code, in client, and OpenRouter, so each of them could add some latency to the query, so it's hard to compare. But the main part that it did deliver. Now let's compare the code. Okay, and here we have 3 VS Code windows. Left is GLM, middle is Sonnet, and third is Opus on the right. So let's take a look at Eloquent model that was generated. So what do we have here? Fillables, casts, relationships by GLM, in this case banner, and then a lot of scope methods, and then also helper method is active now. Then also helper method gets CTR for this project, and even a few more helper methods like record impression, which is increment, and a few more is this or is that. So this is GLM. Let's compare to Sonnet. What Sonnet did, also fillables, also casts, but probably fewer casts. Let's compare. Yep, GLM also generated the cast for integers, but this is not that crucial. And then with Sonnet, we have 1 method for relationship, 1 scope, and that's it. So GLM model generated much more useful methods, useful for the future of this Eloquent model than Sonnet. It's a clear winner. And if we compare to Opus model results, also fillable, also casts, but in this case, Opus did over-deliver or delivered more and created enum classes, which GLM or Sonnet did not do. So that's a good part. But then if we go down, also no helper methods. Also 1 relationship, 1 scope, and then nothing. Now let's compare the factories, basically classes for fake data. This is again GLM on the left, and this is much bigger model for listing. So what is the logic? It uses fake, it uses optional, and various values. So how granular it is, this is the question. And also, did it generate again helpful methods of approved, pending, rejected, archived, and others? So GLM generated quite a few helpful methods again for the future. These are called factory states. Sonnet also generated quite a few logic points to have different fields with different logic, so this part is good, but then again, didn't over-deliver with states. What about Opus on the right? Definition, so again, fake stuff. The good part that it is reusing enums, so Opus is a great example of using enums in PHP. And then, yeah, we do have the states for factories, but not as many as for GLM. So you can see the lines, 97 lines for Opus file and 150 lines with more states generated by GLM. So this is potentially why it was 23 minutes. This is one of the explanations. So it's not just latency or slower network or slower model. It actually generated more code. And finally, let's compare the code for seeders, seeding the fake data using the same factories or not. And GLM on the left, this is the file create 200 listings with mixed statuses, then attach random tags, then create approved listings. So it's using the same methods like approved from the previous states that I showed a minute ago. Then it's creating pending listings, rejected. So basically, granularly, it generates quite a lot of data for testing with different kinds of data points, which is very good for realistic testing of the project. Now to compare, look at the seeder by Sonnet. It's just this. So it's just one list of listings and then random tags. No granularity, no different use cases, just the bare bones of what needed to be generated. And the code of Opus looks more similar to GLM. So again, approved listings, pending listings, and then others. And it's more readable and better structured code in terms of Laravel factory. So we have factory and then each in collection. Also we have recycle users and categories. So GLM doesn't do that. It does that in separate statements, which may or may not be better. Actually, this may be more readable for some people. It depends on your Laravel experience. But in terms of what was seeded, both GLM and Opus did good. So yeah, from looking at those code differences, I realized two things. First, GLM-5 is totally capable of running long-running tasks like I'm doing like work on phase 1, and then I can pretty safely go away from computer, come back in 5 minutes, and then review the stuff. So it doesn't need much hand-holding. Of course, that's if your specification and prompt is good enough, but I prepared it quite detailed for all the models in this case. And then secondly, I realized why ZAI creators of GLM compare that model more to Opus than to Sonnet. It does deliver the code that is more similar to Opus than to Sonnet. So Sonnet lost this battle quite easily and without even fighting, basically. And I felt myself what some people are tweeting these days after GLM-5. So Theo is tweeting that GLM is a killer model. Also, Wes says that GLM-5 looks insane and benchmarks of Opus and GPT-5 too. So for now, what I see on Twitter and on social media, everyone is praising GLM-5 while being so much cheaper than Opus model. This is also summarized by Theo in the comment, in the reply to tweet. It's close to Opus and GPT, and it is 10 times cheaper. Of course, the actual price depends on your subscription and your usage, so there are nuances, but it is really much cheaper. So yeah, I do advise that you at least try GLM-5 and see for yourself how it works on your projects. And also, if you are into those open weight and open source models, you may watch another video I shot yesterday, which was so poorly timed because I compared GLM 4.7, that was yesterday morning, against Kimi K 2.5 and Qwen 3 Coder. This is a video for premium members of AI Coding Daily, but if you want to support my mission of shooting these reviews both on YouTube and on premium, I would appreciate if you subscribe to premium membership, either on AICodingDaily.com or on Substack, whatever you prefer. So the same video is here on Substack for premium members, and this would show you how GLM in general is compared to Kimi, and in this case, Qwen 3 Coder Plus model. So link to that video will be in the description below. What do you think about GLM models in general, and have you tried GLM-5? Let's discuss in the comments below. That's it for this time, and see you guys in other videos.